I'm more worried than ever about the Dune Universe, the Dune-iverse. I'm more worried about the Dune-iverse than ever after watching Dune Prophecy Season 1, Episode 1. I think there's three types of people who watch Dune. There's the people who read the books, who are obsessed with everything. They've read the Dune Chronicles, which is the original 6 books written by Frank Herbert. They've read the Extended Universe, or whatever it's called, written by his son. Some people don't count those books. Some people do. Some people are all in. Some people will eat it all up, and some people want high quality entertainment. I am a little bit of both. I read the Dune Chronicles after having seen Dune Part 2. So my story right here, it goes like this. I saw Dune Part 1 when it came out on HBO Max. It was COVID, it came out on TV, and I watched it, and I remember thinking to myself, like, whoa, I cannot believe, I was kind of bummed that I didn't see it in theaters, basically. But I was all in. I think I had seen pieces of the original Dune film by David Lynch years ago, and I mean, like, it was cool. I was into it. It's super weird, obviously, and I really liked, I think it was the Ixians or the Filiaxlu. I don't know how to say it. If you do, subscribe, because someone's got to tell me. People are going to kill me in the comments, but the guy in the tank, oh my god, I love that in the David Lynch's version of the movie. It is so whacked out. I mean, it's a true gem in its own right. But when I saw Dune Part 1, when I saw Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 1, I remember thinking, whoa, science fiction is back. I'm one of those guys that I was born in the mid 80s, so I grew up on the prequels, and I didn't like them, right? Because Star Wars, the original 4, 5, and 6 had come out in the late 90s, right before The Phantom Menace. We got all the re-releases, and me and my friends saw them in theaters, and it was a big deal. So we didn't love the prequels. We were into them when they came out, but then, I was just at that age where, like, it was cool not to like Star Wars. And of course, I'm one of those people that now loves the old prequels, in their own way, and doesn't really like the sequels. That's a conversation for another time, but the point is this. Dune brought sci-fi fantasy back. It's like a hard sci-fi fantasy. And it didn't make me read the books. I was still intimidated by the page count. But after seeing Dune Part 2 on 1570 IMAX, so I saw that the AMC Lincoln Square, and I was just absolutely mind blown by Denis Villeneuve's interpretation of the Dune universe. And his vision is so strong, it made me go back and do a deep dive on Denis Villeneuve. I think I had only seen, honestly, Blade Runner 2049 before, so I went back and I watched Prisoners and Sicario. Now I'm a Denis Villeneuve head, and I'm excited to see everything that he's got next. And even to go back, I haven't seen Enemy yet. I want to catch that. So here's how I feel as a Dune fan. Denis Villeneuve brought me Dune. After seeing Dune Part 2, I read the novel, which made me want to read Dune Messiah, because I was excited to see what Denis Villeneuve was going to do next, right? I wanted to read Dune Messiah because I wanted to see the movie in my mind. I was so excited to know, what's he going to do next? So I read the book, I read Dune Messiah. I loved it so much that I read Children of Dune, God Emperor Dune, Heretics of Dune, Chapter House Dune. Now, I do have to admit, the last 200 pages or so of Chapter House Dune is incredibly dense and hard to get through. In fact, the last 2 books, Heretics of Dune and Chapter House Dune, it's all about the Bene Gesserit, and it takes place over 3,000 years in the future after, spoilers, Paul's heir, Leto II, has died. And I believe Leto II, I'll just say this, Leto II was alive for a long time, and I'll leave it at that. But the books are interesting. But again, I read the books as a fan of Denis Villeneuve's film interpretation. I'm not even a big book guy. I'm not a book talker, right? Like, I'm a movie guy, but I love the movie so much that it made me go, like, let's find out about Dune all the way. Now, I haven't taken it further than the Chronicles, the 6 original books. I haven't read any of his son's books, and I haven't read any of the, I don't care. I'm sure they're interesting, and I hope that if you are someone who read those books, you can just appreciate the fact that I'm kind of speaking as more of a general opinion. I just don't have the time for all those books, but that's also because I'm not a book guy, right? I read all those books because I'm a movie guy, and I was so into those movies. But I think if I was a book guy, I'd probably read it all, and I'd probably love it all. I bet I would like it all, honestly. So, if this show, if Dune Prophecy truly is what you Dune book lovers have been waiting for, if that first episode spoke to you, then that's great. I'm excited for you. And I really do hope that episode 2, which I will be watching, is better. But as of now, episode 1 left me wanting. And so the next thing that I want to talk about is I want to talk about, where I'm left, what I'm thinking about, and if I care about anything that I saw. All right. So first, I just really wanted to talk about who I am as a Dune fan. I think that's really important. Next, we're going to go on to what I actually think about the show. Now, I'm not going to get into character names or actors' names. I'm not doing research. I'm just talking from my gut. I'm talking from the heart. I'm talking from memory. I watched this first episode a day ago. So where I'm coming from is actually, I think, probably quite similar to where a lot of you might be coming from. You watch the show, it's a few days later, you're thinking about it. It's going to come on again in a few days. Do I really want to watch that next episode? Where am I left? What am I wondering about? What happened in the previous episode that I'm excited about finding, out where that's going to go. So let's start with the thing that annoyed me the most about the episode, and I think I'm going to get some pushback on this, but it starts with a quote at the bottom of the screen. Now, I'm pretty sure it's not the Sardaukar that are speaking in the background, where in the Denis Villeneuve films, it was the Sardaukar battle cries that we hear. This is something different. It's also kind of like harrowing, which I get, but it's a quote. It's at the bottom of the screen. There's a second half of the quote. It's exactly the way Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 start. So there's this immediate connection to the films. And to be completely honest, that really bothered me, because while I want this to be connected to the films, I really do. And, in a perfect world, Villeneuve wrote and directed this whole series, and it is an exact interpretation of what, he would have done. But that's not what this is. And so the quote at the beginning kind of bothered me, because that's not how the books begin. The books don't begin with quotes. Now, someone argued with me on Twitter the other day that they do, but that's incorrect. Each chapter begins with an excerpt or a quote from a history or a book or some literature in the Dune-iverse, right? A lot of it is Princess Arulon, her writings and her journals, but it's not a quote. It's not a direct quote or some sort of poetic quote. It's different. And so I felt like this was specifically targeting the connection to the Villeneuve universe, which again, I understand, but I don't think the rest of the show, held up to those standards, because I'm going to jump to my least favorite part of the episode now, which I guess I just already said was the first part, but it's really this next part. There is like a softcore porn scene in the show, and I'm not really I don't have an issue with that per se, but I feel like it degrades the quality of the show. It degrades the quality of the story. I understand that the Bene Gesserit use sex and seduction to control their breeding, and so I understand the purpose of it, but I thought that it was filmed, acted, presented. I thought it was all too ooh, yeah, hey, sexy, look at his abs, okay. It was a bit much, and I don't know, it wasn't beautiful. It wasn't presented, I don't know. I thought it was very out of place. Now, another issue I have with the show is the king. Now, I think one of the big problems I have is that he's obviously already controlled by one of these women, so we're not seeing them actually infiltrate or gain any power. It seems like they already have this power. It seems like he's not a true emperor. He's a weak man. His wife is obviously stronger than him. She kind of gives him the look during one of the scenes, oh, I can't believe you're not standing up for, XYZ. So we're already there. I don't know why. This has to take 10,000 years to develop. They're already doing it. The sisterhood is already acting as the Bene Gesserit. There's nothing interesting about the development of the sisterhood. We begin it, and the first Mother Superior is dying, but the way she does things is being kept by Valia. So there's no progression, right? So basically, the Bene Gesserit, as is in the Denis Villeneuve universe, 10,000 years later, is exactly the same as it was now, as it was 100 years. It's it doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense, and it's not at least an intriguing story. Am I interested to see them develop the sisterhood? Sure, but they already did that. There was a 30-year time jump where it developed even more, and now they wear different color clothes. But it's the same. It's exactly the same, because they already had the influence. Now they have more influence, and it looks like they're going to get a wedding, and now they're going to have even more influence. But it's the same thing. I don't know. Here's another problem I have with the show. It sniffs its own farts. This is the type of show that already knows it's the next quote-unquote Game of Thrones. It's got all the money. It doesn't have to work for the shots because it's got all the CGI cash. And there's a lot of loud music montages, really cool sweeping camera movements, and I'm watching these people stand in line and this is happening. But then we finally get to these dialogue scenes where characters are actually talking to each other, and then it is just this boring, slow, oh, what do you think about her? Well, I'm not sure about this one. Oh, but I think that one's good. Well, how about this? And I don't know about you, but I'm not even into Dune for the action and adventure. I stay for the action and adventure, but I come for the story. I haven't found a story yet. Okay, so there's Valia Harkonnen. She has this mission that she's gonna keep things status quo, and some people don't want to do things status quo, and she's willing to kill for it, and she does, and then things remain status quo. And now there's a guy who can burn people with his mind. I don't know. This, honestly, the whole plot, I think it's all over the place. I don't think there's any characters that I'm holding on to or feel like, you know, this is my POV character. Right? We're not really seeing through Valia's eyes. We're not really seeing through the new trainee, the new sister. We're not seeing through anyone's perspective. We're just kind of viewing these things. You know, in Dune, Paul Atreides is our avatar, you know, and we're learning things about Arrakis through him. We're learning things about the Bene Gesserit through him. We're learning things about the Emperor through him. We're learning things about the Atomics through him, right? He's our avatar. In some way, Chani looks like she's becoming the avatar of Dune Part 2 near the end of the film. As Paul turns into Paul Muad'Dib, Emperor, I think that Zendaya's character becomes our avatar. As she's walking away, she's leaving at the end of the movie. We end on her face. She's riding the worm away. I thought that was very interesting. But the perspective, Denis Villeneuve is able to put the viewer's mind into the perspective of here or there. You know, even when we're dealing with the Harkonnens in Getty Prime, there is a perspective. We're with Fade. You know, we're finding things out through Fade. We're learning the Baron's plan through Fade as the Baron tells Fade, hey, listen, I'm thinking about making you the Emperor. That's when we hear it for the first time too, right? In the books, it's different, but in the films, there's always a perspective. In the show, I don't know where the perspective is. And as a fan of film and as a fan of good television, perspective is very, very important. And so I feel a little lost. I don't know what I'm looking forward to. And that is definitely a shame. I will watch next week. I love Dune. I'm gonna watch this whole series, but I don't think I'm gonna like it. I was nervous watching the trailers. I was really nervous watching the trailers because there's nothing good in there. You know, so here's the thing. I wanna love it. I'm gonna keep giving it another shot. I'll probably rewatch this episode before the second one so that I can really feel like I have a grasp on everything, but I have a bad feeling that this is going to continue, and I'm gonna hate the show, and my real fear is that it ruins Dune for others. I can watch Dune Messiah and pretend the show never happened if I don't like it, but if people connect the show to the movies and the show does poorly, I worry. You know, not everyone is a film Twitter head like me, and probably you if you're listening to this, but the general public, they just know Dune. They don't know Denis Villeneuve. There's Dune. They don't know Paul Atreides. They know, you know, Timmy Chalamet. They don't know, you know what I'm saying? Oh, Timmy's in the Dune. So here's the thing. You know, I miss TV of 10 years ago. I miss the good old days. I think you guys do too, right? It's rough. Like, I'm watching these shows chasing the dragon, you know, of top 10 TV, of high quality TV. And we're not getting it. Penguin was great though. The Penguin was a great show. I mean, really, really excellent. So at least there's that. I can rewatch that if I want to. So I've got The Penguin and I've got Loki. If you want to see my thoughts on how The Penguin emulates Breaking Bad, not The Sopranos, I actually think that Victor Aguilar is kind of like a realistic avatar for Jesse Pinkman. Link in the description. So if you're interested in that, check that out. And thanks for making it this far. This was Film School Dad.